Yeah, and he's a tyrant, you know.
Yes, he's been in my life for over 40 years. That's all you need to know about me in terms of that.
Can you imagine that, Josh?
No, I've known you for like 15, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm the real daughter, right? This is who is it? You're the work. You're the professional son. I'm the actual child.
Yeah.
I get all the crazy. Although I gotta say, the last few episodes, watching my dad make it rain was a little. I was not prepared.
I wondered how you felt about that.
I was like, "This is happening." I was like, "I don't know what to do right now."
Yeah, and then him talking about going into a strip club and making it rain and then walking.
Yeah, see, I wasn't going to bring that part up, Josh, for a reason.
Sorry. That was my favorite part. I'm like, oh, how's this going to land with the family?
Yeah. Clearly, I didn't think about that when I said it.
Do you think when your mouth opens?
No.
Oh,
Joshua David.
Yes. Robert.
Lynn. Should I tell him what the he's
No.
Yeah, there's some history with that name.
Yeah.
What? No? Oh, okay.
Hey, Rhiannon. Yeah, I am your father. So
we can talk offline.
offline. Okay. Yeah.
Got you.
Okay. Well, the topic is really good. So with the topic being onboarding, and this being Rhiannon's first Metacast, did we do a good enough job onboarding her?
Oh,
so we'll find out.
Oh my God. That's Joshua, you segue fool you. What was that?
It was amazing.
It's one of the few skills I have.
It was like 2 sticks of butter.
So I'm pretty uncomfortable with this now. Just the 2 Galens are feeling overwhelmed.
How do you think we feel when we get together? We're like, no, we're both too much Galen right now. We both need to bring it down some.
You know, it's funny, Josh. I had this mental picture of you like forming up into a fetal position.
It might happen.
I know. We got to be careful, Rhiannon.
I know. Well, what's interesting. This is the first time that I've actually met Josh.
Mm-hmm.
We've never met. I've heard so much about you. I've seen you on the, doing the Metacast video, heard it. I used to drive to work when I was in New York. And I had to drive to like Brooklyn and Bronx. I would put on the Metacast and listen to that in the car. So I've heard your voice, but this is my first time being introduced. So hi, nice to meet you, Josh.
Yes, I'm very excited to finally meet somebody that, like me, has had to deal with the monster. Yes. And has a bit of a responsibility. This is one of those things that I talk about. Like, I feel responsible for like chopping Bob down every once in a while. Like, if we don't do it, who else is going to do it? Like, it's our responsibility being as close as we are to Bob.
It is so true.
While we've never met, we like unify on a life mission.
What am I, a log?
I mean, I feel like that's, any child's mission to their parent is to chop them down. So I'm there, and I feel like you're in that mix. Yeah. I mean, you've known my dad for how long?
Too long.
We can call you, one of his kids.
No.
Well, please. You don't need permission to start.
You're like, please don't go there.
No.
Especially when he calls me babe.
I've occasionally called you son too, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Occasionally,
but
you don't.
Yeah.
You don't like
in a not nice tone. Yeah, babe. Because
I haven't called you babe. It's just like a babe. It's like a Rat Pack reference.
No, there's no. You can't fix that. That's a no.
No. So onboarding. Can I start us off with a real
look
quick
at you getting us back on topic? This is
never
happened.
Well, he doesn't want us to go down the Bob route anymore.
I know.
Exactly.
We'll calm it down for a little bit.
So years ago, I worked for NetApp. And this is decades ago. And they were headquartered in California, in Silicon Valley. And they were building an office here. Not building, but they were building an office of people, adding people over time. So it was relatively small. And I remember getting like the Saturday before my first day, And I was surprised. I got this big box in the mail. And it was like Saturday morning. And it was my laptop. It was instructions. It was tchotchke stuff like cups and T-shirts and I had never. I was before that. I had always worked for the man, right? So it was like waterfall and things like. So I was a piece of meat, right? So no one did that. I mean, it had everything in it that I needed. Oh, it had directions for the healthcare. It had directions for all of the benefits and things like that. And I just remember going through this and laying it out on a table, all the stuff. And I'm like the thought, and they precisely had it delivered before they controlled the delivery. Probably before delivery, like everything was, sort of tracked and things like that, the way it was today. And I remember being blown away by that. The effort it took them to do it, the planning. It put a responsibility on me. I'm like, this is serious stuff. I need to show up, right? I need to bring, speaking in terms of, I need to bring a full gallon to the plate. And I was really motivated and I was jazzed. And I remember that feeling sort of stayed with me for a while, for a good while. I felt like they respected me. There was a respect factor. There was a planning factor. There was at the time I was writing a little code, Josh. So it was like, that you can do your job like tomorrow morning when you show up. So that's probably my most impactful onboarding story to kick things off. So pick that apart, guys. Have you seen that before? What's good about that? Any reactions?
Yeah, I would say so. My history is I used to manage onboarding when I was a social worker. That was my last job, was spending 5 years improving our onboarding process and making it better. But we didn't have that kind of budget. So my first job transitioning as a scrum master, I had a very similar experience, which was, I think I got my equipment a week before. And it's nice when you can have all that stuff, especially when you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing with computers or monitors. I got the laptop, 2 monitors. I was like, I'm not going to use these. I use them. And having one monitor now is like terrible for me. I have to use more than one monitor. I never thought I'd say that. But then I got the tchotchke on day 1, and they did they plan that they onboard you. They do at this point it was virtual welcome. Here's all this stuff. And you should be getting your package today. And we all got our packages like halfway through the day and came in the next day with our mugs. It was amazing. To your point, it feels like welcome to the team. We value you. We care about you. And that's such an important thing to start out with day 1, is to let people know what they mean, like what you mean to them. Now that you're here, we want to keep you here as much as possible. And let's be real, I love free stuff. Everybody, I want the tchotchkes. Like, give me as much free stuff as you possibly can. And it helps me brag about, this is where I work. They care about me. This is what they've done for me. It feels so good to be put in that place. So
yeah, if you give me a t-shirt, I'm yours for like a quarter. Like there's like, it's that simple. I really am that simple. The good news is this has become a bit of the norm across the space. And like you see on LinkedIn, when people post about joining a new company, they always have a photo of like all the things that they got pre-start date and are ready to rock and roll, or like on their desk if it's one of those things. So that's really good news and helps folks get up to speed. I can tell you one of the things that I've struggled with is not that part of the onboarding, but getting somebody rolling. I was always, and it's my own fault because that's how I jump into a job, So I very quickly just try and kick people out of the nest and be like, all right, how soon can we get you writing your first piece of code and like checking in a bug? Like that's always been an important thing to me, but that fit my personality very well. And I had to alter that quite a bit as I learned the mistakes I was making along the way, that not everybody was down with that. And for some folks, it was pretty off-putting. And evolution for me to get there took a while. It took a few mistakes, and thankfully I had created a space where people would like tell me like, what I do, no, I need more info, so that's certainly something where I've had to focus quite a lot. I don't know if the two of you have had to wrestle with things like that, either when you're hired or during the hiring process.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to that is when we were thinking about a topic with onboarding, the phrase that always comes up to me is setting expectations and doing that as soon as possible, because you come in, you've got this, you're given all this tchotchke, you've got all your equipment. Well, what are you expecting from me? What am I expecting of myself? Josh, I'm like you. I need to hit the ground running. And then I pull back because I realize, okay, I've got to slow down. I've also been doing this for, professionally 20 years. So I've learned to slow it down and pull back and kind of ease my way into things. But I still need to know what is expected of me. When I don't, I feel like I have no foundation to stand on, and it doesn't feel safe for me as a new employee. And that includes, right, day one, what do you need from me? The 30, 60, 90, like, what is it that you need from me as my manager? What are you going to expect from me day to day? And I want to know that as soon as possible so I can be successful. I mean, I've bad experiences. I had a recent job where I didn't even know who my manager was. You're like, wait, who do I thought it was this person. Wait, it's this person. Oh, wait, no, it's that person. And they're over there. Oh, why didn't I know that? So that really shakes things up and makes you feel like you don't have any footing. And what do you do with that? It's not easy.
Great point. What I'm hearing is clarity so beyond the presence and the tchotchkes and the excitement, and that's important. I think there's a game planning. What I'm hearing, Josh, is like and this needs to be leadership driven, who you're reporting to, or however that is. Set the stage. What are my goals? What are my objectives? What is my 30, 60, 90-day plan? Clarity, just absolute clarity, and avoiding confusion. I think chaos in the beginning is a really bad thing. Even if you get the box of the present, if there's a total lack of clarity, like I walked in the door and people they didn't know I was coming, right? I mean, let's say I got the box, I got the prize, but then I walk in and like, who are you? You need to sign the guest log or something, like, or we don't even, you can't get in. Or I did one, and these are anti-patterns. And this would never happen today, but I remember joining a job and it took 3, and I was writing code. I was like a senior developer architect, and it took 3.5 weeks to get my computer. And I was sitting there for 3.5 weeks, and that soured me I stayed there for 2 or 3 years or 4 years. I stayed there for a long time, but I never, ever, ever forgot that. Just was like an ultimate insult to me. And I know I'm a little odd, but it was like, how can you not have I'm a programmer? It would be like, you're a jockey.
And you don't have a horse.
And you don't have a horse. It's like, oh, damn.
And they're like, why aren't you winning races?
And you bring in one of those little wooden horses, like that they give kids, and you're popping around. But it's like, where's your horse? I don't have a horse. Right?
No, it's a good point, because we always remember the first kind of impressions, and that can change over time. I think that's one thing to think about with onboarding is if someone's telling me that this is what happened, well, then what am I doing to try to fix that? And I've also worked at places where you can tell they've made an effort. Like, oh my gosh, we did not do well here. What can we do to make this better? And let's get you that t-shirt. Let's get you all the equipment you need as soon as possible. We're going to show you that we're making the effort for this. But I've also gone to places who didn't. And you're absolutely right. It stays with you. It kind of shifts you. So now my mindset isn't, what can I do for the company as well as what can they do for me? It's like, no, I'm just going to, like, what can you do for me? And the minute you can't do anything for me anymore, why should I stay here? And you don't want that mindset to stay. You want them to really, it needs to be a mutual relationship. And I think that's the most important piece. Onboarding really establishes that it's a mutual relationship if it's done well.
Yeah, at Storable, one of my previous gigs, we invested really heavily into onboarding, and I don't remember who I stole it from, but one of my peers had this most amazing document to onboard folks, so I just started using it, and it was um, welcoming stuff is the first page, and the second page is like, all right, week one, here's what we expect. Here's who you need to talk to. Here's all the systems. Make sure you get all your login set up and do all that stuff. At the end of the week, we're going to have a meeting. We'll also have one halfway through just to make sure things are going well. But at the end of the week, we're going to have a meeting. And what I expect is for you to be able to talk me through this. And then, all right, so 30 days after that, here's all and it was a long list of people that you need to reach out to, and they know you're going to reach out to them, and just set up time to learn. In that meantime, we also are looking for this, and this to happen, and at the end of those 30 days, here's the thing that we want you to be able to do. So it was be able to talk about all of our products, the value that they create for our customers, depending on if they were devs, the architectural approach to each of them, and things we're trying to work on, just to again get your footing. Then at 90 days, after 90 days, it's like, okay, you are ready to rock and roll. All of the controls are off and you just go, but here's the other things that will likely help you get there, and then just set people off. And we heard numerous times that this is the best onboarding process that they have ever been a part of. And I can't take the credit for that. It was a bunch of people that had created that, and I just used it. But that was super effective for the number of people that we hired to be able to come in and have comfort that they're still driving it themselves, right? That we're still asking them to take the steps, but they have a pretty loose map of here's where I need to go and here's what I should know at each of the checkpoints. And that seemed to work really well with folks. So I'm just going to use that for the rest of my career.
Yeah, I can honestly say, as someone who's done onboarding for a few years, that was such a big thing for us, was having not just onboarding, but what's our program?
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole shebang.
Yeah.
And we were very similar. The other thing that we used to do, and you might have done this as well, is we always tried to figure out how to incorporate fun and connectedness, because what we realized is, and this is something that I saw as I went through my career, is the people I started with, I bonded with, and they became my support system. And so how do you keep that going? Well, or amplify that? We would do that in our onboarding by creating lots of fun team building exercises. Then we would relate it back to the work. So, hey, we just did this exercise. That was tons of fun. But what did you learn that can connect back to the work that you are doing? And how do you take that as lessons? We used to make sure at the end of every onboarding, they would share their emails and phone numbers, work related or personal, if they felt comfortable. Like, connect with each other. This is important to you. And then last thought with what you were saying is, we always incorporated themes that we felt absolutely were necessary, but typically wouldn't happen in onboarding. And one of the examples I'm thinking of is self-care. Like, we wanted to stress that self-care mattered, and here are some ways that you can do it. So, what would you not get at onboarding, but really matters to your work? And those are some of the things, right? How do you have fun and connect with people? And what's the self-care plan that you have while you're here? Because that's a value of ours.
Yeah, there was a company I worked at where we could only start people on a specific schedule because they actually treated it as like, this is our newest class of hires. And I was like, I just need people in the door. Like, can I get this person to start not 3 weeks from now? Like, they're ready to go. They want to start now. And over time, I saw exactly what you were saying, was those people stayed connected. And it wasn't just the devs, it was from across the entire company.
Yeah.
There was a class that came together. And so now they had these connections across the organization that would have taken them months, maybe years, to actually bump into those people, stop and talk, and actually connect with them. So While I didn't like it because I just wanted people now, it paid off in the long run and really helped with the cohesion across the board.
Now, you were the person I would always fight with.
Probably.
They'd be calling me up being like, are you sure they have to be there? Yes.
Yes.
And they have to start this day? Yes. Because part of it is not just what you described really well, right? The camaraderie, all that stuff, which is really helpful. But when you start on an off day, even the team doesn't know what to do with you sometimes because, right, if some people are starting here, but some people are starting here, you're coming in. And again, it's a mixed bag of expectations and understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. So if the more consistent you can be, the stronger the onboarding is going to be.
I wanted to just go back to the chat a little bit. I'm watching. So I think Stephen said something about celebrating anniversaries. So taking onboarding and not losing, maybe looking at getting a gift it's not all about gifts, but recognition, some meaningful recognition, like at an anniversary date or something like that. I think that was an important point. It's almost like the last Metacast we were talking about pay people what they're worth. And then you bring them in the door, and now we're talking, and this connects to that. It's like, now treat them the way they're worth, right? And onboard them the way they're worth. And then don't lose that momentum, not every month, but maybe on an anniversary basis, like reignite the fire or reignite the appreciation you have for them joining and things like that. I wanted to ask you both a question. I wanted to just go back to so I've never done onboarding in a virtual environment like COVID, right? So for me, even when I got it from NetApp, it was I had an office I was going into. Everything came out of California. So what has virtual stories? Is it more important, less important? And what has it changed with onboarding in like COVID and virtual environments?
It definitely made it more important because there was a physical disconnect, and you should see the joy on people's faces when there's a company get together and like you actually meet the person you've been working with for like a year and a half, and you're like, this is amazing, because we have that need, and it can be really easy to feel disconnected and isolated in this virtual world. So that's part of the reason why Storable invested like they did, because it was like right when COVID was going on, and they're like, dang, like we're planning to hire like 200 people this year.
Wow.
How are we going to do that and do that well and have everybody like be happy? So that's why the investment was spent there on that. But yeah, I don't see, to me, it feels insanely more important than it was before. At least it is to me. Maybe it's because I like wasn't paying attention to it in the first half of my career and I was a jerk, likely possible. But it certainly has ramped up now.
Yeah, I would agree. What we had to do was get really creative on how we presented the information. We had to get really creative on the activities that we did to really get people excited about things. And that was necessary, right? What virtual platforms can you utilize that get people excited and really interactive? There's tons out there that you have that can work, that is really fun. The other thing you realize is there's the organization-wide onboarding, but what about the team onboarding as well? So that was something you also realized was more important, was, that what we weren't thinking about that as much, but now that you're virtual and you're 100%, how do you help support everybody create something that's meaningful onboarding when you're virtual? So helping teams figure out, okay, we've got somebody new coming in. What are we going to do to bring them in? How do we make sure that they're feeling connected to the team? What fun exercises can we do? What platforms can we use to get them going? So much more important than it used to be, because a lot of that stuff happens organically, right? You meet someone, you connect with them, you start. Oftentimes there's that expectation with new teams. You're going to take them to lunch. If there's a cafe on property, you do that. you can't do that virtually anymore. So you can't be as organic as you want to be. You actually have to like schedule it. Okay, we're going to meet at this time and go over things. So that also aligns with like, okay, what expectations? Who does this person need to meet and have one-on-ones with so they're connecting with people, and be more intentional about it was really, really important.
One of the things that I did historically when I was at iContact is I put the onboarding. So before, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I looked at it as my job as a manager to onboard people. One of my key roles was I was the prime onboarder, not the only, but the prime. And then I had this epiphany as I got into Agile and iContact, I shifted the burden of onboarding, most of it, not the prizes or the door dashes. That was my job. But the onboarding in the team, I pushed that to the team and just said, take story points and invest whatever you have to do to effectively onboard Josh Anderson. Do that. Like, I want a team to declare who's going to be Josh's buddy, who's going to pair with him, or what is the dynamic, who's going to bring him into the code base. So you all need to onboard him effectively and ramp him up so he's a high contributing member of your team. And then I just left it. And what I found is the teams handled it pretty deftly, pretty calm. And it was really it was not just a one person in the team, but the whole team took on the responsibility of onboarding someone. And that worked. Any reactions to that?
Yeah, I've done the same thing where, and we worked really hard to make sure that like work is work, and it doesn't have to be just coding that goes into a sprint. Like there's things we have to do, things we have to invest time in to make this a reality, and that was one of those things. Yeah. So I've seen that work. Rhiannon?
Yeah. Not only that, but it's the community. Right. I just moved to from New York to North Carolina, and in my brain I was like, is it my job to go meet all the neighbors, or theirs come to me, right? As the new person, what is that expectation? I like the fact that the manager is setting the expectation, because it's not always clear whose role is it to do, right? I agree it's on the team, but what does that mean? Being very clear of what they should be doing for them, setting up a one-on-one. I see now in the Scrum Master role, we just onboarded someone new. I kind of take that on and do ownership, but what do I put to the team to make sure the team is 100% involved and invested in that? So that happens, right? It's like who's the one kind of coordinating it and then making sure that everything happens. It is important to have that point person, because oftentimes if you don't, like a manager, it will fall to the wayside. People won't kind of know what to. Some people will, because they're extroverted and they like meeting new people. Other people will not. So that's also important, is to figure out how do you meet that person where they're at and the team where they're at, so it works really well.
I think you said it, Rhiannon, like team expectations. So setting expectations.
You just cut off Josh. How could you cut Josh, Tom?
All right. I'm sorry.
No, Bob, go, because you were on topic and I was not.
Okay.
So that's the one case he can.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh. I forget. Now I forgot my train of thought. I did. I'm gone. Did you really? Yeah, I did. I swear to God.
Well done.
Yeah, Josh, please, after you.
Oh, thank you. So I just want to ask, because I know you're a Pennsylvania guy. You keep saying prize for what I would equate as a gift, and like the Rocky movies were very formative in my youth, and I was always confused when Rocky gave an anniversary gift to Adrian that he said, "Open your prize," and that, like, I've never heard that before. I've never heard that anywhere else. Is that a thing you say?
Clearly I do. So,
well, but like, do you give somebody a gift, or do you give someone a prize?
I use them interchangeably. And I don't even know what the context is for the switch. I think it is. It might. The origin of it might be in that Pennsylvania area to some degree, but I don't know.
Okay.
But it's not the only. It's not the only verbal tick. I'm sure I have others like that. Like, don't take this the wrong way, Josh.
Is that episode 251?
No, the number of times I've been with Bob and he starts saying, "I don't mean to pick," but then he goes on and just picks somebody to death. And I'm like, Bob,
is that the Pennsylvania version of "Bless Your Heart"?
Yeah,
yeah. It may be. There may be.
It is the same as when if anybody ever starts a sentence with, "I'm not trying to be racist," but that's when you just like walk away. Right?
Run.
That's just that's something bad's gonna happen.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say actually. And I wanted to get both of your reactions. I used to set the expectation for a team. Like I wasn't micromanaging the team's onboarding, but I looked at it as I was setting a vision. And one of the vision quests was I wanted every person who was new to stand up at a sprint review and have something. I mean, clearly they're not going to solve world hunger in their first 2 weeks, but given their skill, given the capability, given the team's onboarding, I wanted them to contribute something right in the first 2 weeks, contribute something valuable and get some credit for it, if you will, or get transparency for it in front of people. Do you think that's unfair or what good idea, bad idea? But I was really laser focused on that notion.
I mean, for me, it would land because I'm okay with an audience. I'm okay being front and center, but I've made that mistake with people before where they are not. They are like, I like to be in the background and I'm okay with it. So I think how you have them highlight that success, that win, really has to meet them where they're at. But I think that goes back to that expectations conversation. Is we forget often, like we as leaders will ask them to say, what do you need from us here? This is what I need from you, new worker. We have to flip that and say, well, okay, well, what do you need? What would you like from us? Here's our onboarding program. These are some of the expectations. What's landing? Where do we need to adapt to make it work for you? Because I could see that new person on one side of the spectrum being like, yeah, this place rocks. I love this. On the other end, they're like, oh no, I'm terrified and I don't think I can.
Well, let me couch it. Sometimes they were running a mouse. Sometimes just their name showed up and said they helped deliver story 1, 2, 3. Or something like that. So they weren't doing the Gettysburg Address in the first 2 weeks in front of the entire company. Yeah. But whatever they were comfortable with, I wanted them to feel, I wanted the team and them to gel and to say, we are contributing something. I actually didn't care what the something was. Josh, reactions?
Well, just quickly, I think the takeaway there though isn't what you're at. It's the process. As the manager, are you giving them the space and respecting them? That's you're gonna coast for more than a quarter on that action. Yeah. Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
So I just want to highlight that in true Galen fashion, Bob said, "Go ahead, Josh," and Rhiannon is like, "Screw you, Josh. I'm going to talk."
I did. I had one more thing to add. Just
that was for you, Bob. You owe me one.
After I shut up Bob for you, Josh.
I'm trying to be fair here. Just trying
because you have to deal with him more often than me. I understand.
We did it definitely in a more subtle way because just the crew that I had hired, that spotlight with a microphone was recipe for freezing up. So it just became a thing of, in the sprint review, we talk about, hey, we have a new teammate, and we put their picture up there, and like we ask everybody to wave at them or something like that. So the group that I had at the time were super uncomfortable. Now over time they got better because we forced them to stand up in front of everybody and present in the demos and everything that went on with that. One of the things that I want to talk about is onboarding to your agile process, because this is something where I screwed up in the past. We became a bit of a destination job, and so these very agile people came to work with us, and I got very excited, like, oh man, like this is going to be great. They're going to come in like there's nothing I need to do, and they're just going to be rocking and rolling. And it was narrow-minded of me because our agile wasn't the same as everybody else's agile. So we had to quickly learn how to onboard people, not just into like how we operate with like this is where you check in code and this is where you get coffee and things like that, but like this is how we agile because I at that moment at the rate that we were hiring learned how diverse agile was, and it wasn't everybody did it like I thought they should. It was very different across the board. So I don't know, Rhiannon, if that's something that you landed into with your first job of like, hey, this is how we do it, or they just kind of let you go. Bob, Agile's evolved over the 75 years you've been doing this, so it'd be interesting to hear your viewpoints.
Since you said my name first, though, I would love it if there was a way to like squeeze his picture out of the way. No, I'm just kidding. I love that you said this. I will be, yes. I'll be very honest. My first agile job, he's done. Look at him. No, my first agile job, I created that training. So I'm like a consummate trainer. I love to, develop workshops. And I was like, hey, we don't do this. Can we do this? Wait, we don't do this for anybody? We need to do this for everybody. So Rhiannon's first big project, right? I'm brand new to Agile. This is like brand new, totally flipped my career. And I that's part of where my brain goes to, since I am passionate about teaching and training. I was like, we need this. We need to have that. And to your point, I think my job when I was training it was to really validate the crap out of people. I don't want to make an assumption that you know this, and I don't want to make an assumption that you do or don't. Like we're going to provide a baseline. If you already know this, then share your stories. If you don't know this, come to the table with as many questions as you feel you need answered, because it's not just me as the trainer, it's everybody. So I really wanted to make sure people came into that onboarding process feeling like they were heard regardless of what level they're on. And that was something I've learned through the years. When I was in child welfare with social workers, we would onboard people who were brand new, some who just, had a degree from a community college, some who had their doctorate, right, who've been doing this for zero, not this is their first job versus, 30 years. And we really wanted to make sure we recognize where they were coming from. So from an agile onboarding process, as you were asking, I think that's even more important. Plus, as the people who are doing the onboarding, you are getting a pulse of where you need to go with them by kind of curbing your assumptions as much as possible, which is not easy to do, but it's so important to kind of recognize, okay, where are they at, and how do I ask those questions, but also validate where they're at.
I mean, in the beginning of the Metacast, Josh, I don't think it was much of an issue, but this notion that everyone had a view of Agile and having a consistent integrated view was a challenge, like the anti-patterns that can create. So it's evolved over the life of the Metacast. In the beginning, everyone was beginners. If I recall, not everyone was beginners, but there was less eclectic experience, right? And deeper experience. So everyone, sort of like get them going. They're a new team to Agile, and which made it easier. Nowadays, I'm actually seeing this as maybe even a future Metacast where we talk about the importance of that alignment and getting folks aligned, not agreeing, right? But having an aligned view, because everyone brings in all this, like, just this wild experience. And there's some folks who are very negative. They've had terrible Agile experience. It's not just about, what variant of Scrum did you practice? It's, did you have successes? What kind of leadership? What kind of team are you on? And how do you sort of scrub that away? And get them aligned with the internal model. I don't think folks do that very much at all now. They only do it as an intervention when it's too late. When it's a team, when you've lost a team or you've lost a group of teams.
Yeah,
you sparked something. I mean, when we were talking about this, I think generations is important to think about. Right. So right now we're hiring more the Gen Zers, and they want to know why I should work for this company. Why? What's the company's why? And from an agile perspective, if you're onboarding them with, the agile, like how you agile, if that does not connect to the larger company's why, that also is going to potentially draw a red flag. So why should I stay here? So that's also something we recognize with onboarding a lot of people is everything has to be interconnected in some way that the messaging is very similar to, so people kind of feel like they're right. Here's your prize, right? Or the tchotchke that you get. Well, why are you giving this to me? Why should I love this? Why should it matter? Oh, because of these things about your company. Oh, because of this stuff with Agile, and it's all deeply connected, is so really important when it comes to like the generational side of things. Is he saying goodbye? He's out. Peace.
I think he was raising his hand because he wanted to speak, so I just turned him off. I think and he's talking right now. He thinks we can hear him, but we can't.
He's gonna come back with just the reddest face ever.
Okay. Everybody imagine how red Bob's face is going to be before I flip the switch for him to come back in.
Right.
Here we go.
Josh's hat red. That's the level. Oh, hey.
Are you done? Are you done?
I'm not actually. No.
Yeah. Is she a Galen or what, Josh?
I know.
I learned it all from you, Bob. I love you.
I wanted to do a generational check between the three of us, like we were talking about multi-generation. So I'm a boomer. Josh, what are you?
I think I'm officially Generation X.
X? Yeah. And Rhiannon, are you the same?
Are you ready for so there's a new title for this. I'm a geriatric millennial.
A geriatric. I like that title.
It's hilarious because the reason why, if you're born in the because I think millennials start in 80. So if you're born in that, like 80 to 85, this is before tech really boomed, right? This weird time frame. They call you you're now a geriatric millennial. I'm guessing a millennial wrote that because they didn't want to fit 100% into millennialism. So we felt more connected to the Gen Xers.
So we're getting generational, sort of ideas here between us. I was curious as to if we had that spread. Yeah. Josh, we've always had a spread, but now we need a young whippersnapper at some point, right? Mm-hmm. You were the young whippersnapper 15 years ago.
Young. I know.
You were the young whippersnapper, and I counted on you to be the young. Smart, young, writing code. Yeah. You're a dinosaur. Get the hell out of my. I mean, there was sort of tension between us. I hate to say it, but
I'm old. Say it.
You're old. You're old.
Yeah, he loves to say that stuff. I feel like he was trying to, like, in some way compliment you, but no. Was that little backhanded there? No.
That's normal.
Can I start? Why don't we have a final word on onboarding? I'll start. I've always been curious. To me, it's planning. And it goes back to our last episode. You're going to pay someone top dollar, which in today's market is a lot of money. Okay. It's serious greenbacks being extended. And then you invite someone in and you do a crappy job of onboarding them. And I've always thought, to me, it's just a planning exercise. It's just taking things seriously and doing your freaking job and stepping up to the plate and planning, like putting a plan together for it. And I've never understood why. And so many companies suck at it. So many companies just don't get it, or they, whatever. And I'm like, I have a little tolerance for that. It's like, come on. It's like blocking and tackling. It's like a basic function of the business. Did you like that, Josh? Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, come on. So I'm like, we have no choice. It's like an imperative. So like, shut up and do a good job, and then learn from the people as you want to onboard them. Last word, Josh and Rhiannon.
Ooh, I was noted first, so that means I get to jump the line. This is exciting.
Final words of wisdom for onboarding.
It's your real first impression. Yes, the phone screen and interview and all that stuff counts, but it's like, okay, you're here now. This is what it's like to be here. And that will set folks off in a good direction or a bad direction. And you have 100% control in how that day, week goes. And too many people just mail it in because there's this historical, oh, well, you know, without us, you can't have a job. So, you know, just be happy we let you in. And that has evolved as the markets have shifted and there's been talent shortages or whatever the right word is there, where the power has flipped and it's like, I don't need to stay here. I can go somewhere else and get a job the same way. So regardless of where you've lived in that time frame, it still matters. It still matters on how you enter and how you are introduced to that company and that culture. So take it seriously, like really seriously.
First impressions.
Yeah.
And then the last word on the last word, Rhiannon.
So for me, I was thinking connections would be like, I would want that to be the theme for any onboarding process. You're getting the connections with the organization, the connections with your team, the connections with the manager, the connections with the why of the organization, right? I want to connect deeply with the values, because if I am connected, I'm going to buy in and I'm going to say, you've got me, right? You've hooked me. I don't need, and that will last a while. So when you think about how do I keep this person here, it really starts, right? The first impressions are huge. You have that planning. You've done all of that. So really build on the connections that you can, I think is so important.
Nicely played.
As you like,
I think we stick a fork in it. So I'll go from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
You're supposed to say your name.
I'm Bob Galen.
I'm also in beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina. I am Rhiannon. Hello.
And from shiny, wonderful, beautiful Fuquay Arena, North Carolina, I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake.
And you say bake.
Bake.
Bake. I get to say it. Yes.
All right.
Take care, y'all.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
So, man, look at that. This chat was fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
It was a good chat.
It was a great chat. Thank you, Stephen. Joel.
Hey, Joel.
Really good feedback today.
Yes.
Oh, look at that. I brought the fun. You're welcome.
No, the fun was already here when I showed up.
Yeah,
come on now. Let's not get too froggy. You know?
Come on. Froggy.
Yeah,
what is it?
Froggy?
What does that even mean?
So
Josh, I need to take up my hat off, even though I don't have a hat. Yeah. And you survived a Galenification.
You did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yes,
I did. I do kind of feel bad about hanging Rhiannon out to dry that one time.
No,
you should feel bad.
Son,
how are you gonna make this up to
Don't
me?
You start with me, Bob.
Babe, how are you gonna make it up to me, babe?
Yeah, babe.
I can do that.
And it's always this quick, short, babe. Listen, babe. Hey, babe.
Really? I've never heard him. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And he always goes to like, oh, it's the Rat Pack, you know, like you're so and so. I'm so and so.
It is.
It is, but that doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. I'm out of here. Josh, have a nice weekend.
All right. We'll see everybody.
All right.
Thank you both.